Hi there, today we're going to learn how to convert or change metric measurements. We have 3 learning targets today, and 2 of those are actually review. Okay, so the first one is I can convert measurements within the metric system to find equivalent or equal amounts, including those in multi-step number stories. The second one, I can multiply a whole number or a decimal by a positive power of 10. Just like we did when we were working on scientific notation. And the third one, I can represent and rename powers of 10 and demonstrate that I understand each place value is 10 times greater than the place to its right and 1/10 of the place to its left. So basically that's just building on our whole idea of the place value system. All right, when we talk about metric measurement, first of all, I want you to remember that we don't use the metric system in our everyday life here in the United States. So they do use it in almost anything science. So it's something that you really need to know, and you need to understand how it works. We have liters to measure capacity, okay, like liquids. We have grams, and those we use to measure mass, which you can think about kind of like weight. And we have meters, and those are used to measure length. All right, you already know a lot about the metric system. We know that it's based on powers of 10. Think for a second what you already know about meters and centimeters. We know that a meter, which is a meter stick, has 100 centimeters. So then 1/100th of a meter would be equal to 1 centimeter. Could we use this to change 3.5 meters into centimeters? So if we know that 1 meter equals 100 centimeters, all we're doing is multiplying the number of meters times 100 to get it into centimeters. So 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. Okay, that's basically like saying 1 meter times 100 equals 100 centimeters. All right, let's try this with 3.5 meters. Change that into centimeters. So we're going to do 3.5 times 100. And we know all we have to do is take that decimal point in 3.5. 100 has 2 place values, 1, 2, and we move that decimal point 2 place values. So 1, 2. And I add in a 0, or maybe you did that before. So 3.5 meters is equal to 350 centimeters. And I ask myself, though, does that make sense? If 1 meter equals 100 centimeters, 3.5 meters is halfway in between 3 and 4. So I could either look at 3 or 4. I could round that to 4, and I would say 4 meters is 400 centimeters. So does my answer make sense? Sure does. There are lots of charts out there that can help you change within the metric system or using the metric conversion. Okay? This is one that I found pretty helpful, and what you need to know about the metric system is that the basic unit here, we'd be talking about meters, liters, or grams. Okay? So as we get into things that are bigger, we would move our decimal point to the left. So decagrams is 10 times a gram. Hectograms is 100 times a gram. Kilograms is 1,000 times 1 gram. We can also move into a smaller unit. So if we start with say meters, decimeters are 1/10. Centimeters are 1/100th. And millimeters are 1/1000th. Think about how a meter stick has 100 centimeters, and every centimeter has 10 millimeters. So every time we move over a unit, we're also multiplying by 10, or we're dividing by 10. It just depends if we're moving to a bigger unit or to a smaller unit. If we move to a smaller unit, we multiply by 10. If we move to a bigger unit, we divide by 10. Here's a mnemonic device to help you remember all of the different prefixes in the metric system. So we talked about kilo, hecto, deca, and then our basic unit. So we're going to use the U in unit, and those are meters, liters, grams. Deci, centi, milli. So our mnemonic device here is King Henry doesn't usually drink chocolate milk. And that can help us remember all of the different prefixes and the different place values that we use in the metric system. The U, remember, is for unit, so meters, liters, and grams. Okay, now let me actually show you how to move within those place values in the metric system. So I talked just a moment ago about how if we're going to move to a smaller unit, we're going to multiply. So every time we move over one prefix, it's one place value. So we multiply by 10. Okay, and if we're moving over to get a bigger unit, we're going to divide by 10. Okay, so let's say that we're taking 5.3 centimeters. Well, I'm going to say I'm moving them to millimeters. Are millimeters a bigger unit or a smaller unit? Well, those are a smaller unit, so I'm going to have more of them. Okay, if I take those centimeters and I make each one of them into 10 millimeters, it's going to be a smaller unit. So I'm going to actually be multiplying to make a larger number because it's a smaller unit. So I multiply by 10, so I actually just take that decimal point, and because we know that every time we move a decimal point, it's one place value, so I'm going to move it one place value to the right. So that's 53. Now I can take the same thing, 5.3 centimeters, and I can move that into a larger unit. So I need to have a smaller number. So I'm going to be dividing by 10. So instead of moving it to the right, I'm going to move my decimal point place values to the left. So here I'm going to look up at my chart. I'm going from centi back to our basic unit of meters. So I have to divide by 10, and then I have to divide by 10 again, because there's 10 centimeters in a decimeter and 10 decimeters in a meter. Another way of saying that is there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. So 100 divided by 100 equals 1. So 5.3 divided by 100 is how I'll change centimeters into meters. To divide by 100, I'll move my decimal point 2 place values to the left. 1, 2. I have kind of a hole here, so I'm going to need to fill in a 0. So 5.3 centimeters equals 0.05 5.53 meters. If you think about that, it should make pretty good sense. 5.3 centimeters is not very long at all. So about that long. I didn't measure it exactly, but that's about 5 centimeters, and that takes up a pretty small part of a meter stick. Okay, this time let's try converting kilometers into smaller units. So we look up here at our chart. We're going to convert into a smaller unit, so it's going to end up being a bigger number because there's more of them. So we're going to move our decimal point to the right. And I need to look at my chart to see how many places I'm going to move to the right. I'm moving kilometers into meters, so I can count 1, 2, 3. Remembering that meters are our basic unit. There's 1,000 meters in a kilometer. So I think about it like this. 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. So 4 kilometers then, 4.0. How many meters is that? I'm going to move my decimal point 3 place values. 1, 2, 3. Fill in those zeros. Because 3 place values is the same thing as 1,000, multiplying by 1,000. 3 place values. So 4 kilometers equals 4,000 meters. Okay, now I'm going to try the same thing, but this time I'm going to turn kilometers into centimeters. There's going to be a whole lot of centimeters in a kilometer because there's 100 centimeters in a meter and there's 1,000 meters in a kilometer. So I'm using a lot of place values. So again, I'm going to go from kilometers to meters. I'm going to count how many times I multiply by 10 or how many place values I move. So kilometers to meters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm really multiplying times 10 to the 5th power, right? So 4 times 10 to the 5th power, because that means 5 place values. That would be 4, and then I move the decimal point 5 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I didn't fill in the zeros to start, so I'm going to fill them in now every time I kind of made that little bump. So 4 kilometers equals 400,000 centimeters. Okay, here's one for you to try on your own. So I want you to pause the video and I want you to use that conversion chart to help you convert 4 liters into milliliters. So hit pause and do it on a piece of paper. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to do this one. So 4 liters, I'm going to start here because liters are my basic unit. And I'm converting them into something that's smaller, so I'm going to end up with a bigger number because there's more of them. So liters into milliliters, it's a jump of 1, 2, 3 place values, or 10 to the 3rd power. So 4 times 10 to the 3rd power. That is 4,000. And that makes sense because in 1 liter there are 1,000 milliliters. So in 4 liters there are 4,000 milliliters. Now try going the other way. You're going to end up with a smaller number because the unit is bigger. 4 liters into kiloliters. This time we're going to go to the left. 1, 2, 3 place values. So we're dividing it, okay? I'm going to start here, and I think I'll just show you how to do this moving your decimal point. So 1, 2, 3 place values. Fill in zeros. It's a pretty small number, and it should be. So 4 liters is the same as 4 thousandths of a kiloliter. That makes sense because 1 liter is equal to 1,000th of a kiloliter, or 1 kiloliter is equal to 1,000 liters. Okay, that's it for today. Now it's time for you to try on your own. Here are your 3 quiz questions. Feel free to go back to the video to use the metric conversion chart that I showed you. Also, don't forget that mnemonic device that I just taught you as you're working to convert within the metric system. Have a great night.